Greetings and welcome back to the podcast. This is Crystal, your host, and this is a space where we speak the things that many people feel but rarely have the words to say, right? They really speak on it. Today we're talking about something that doesn't get enough attention. Last week we talked about the eldest daughter wound. Today we're going to talk about the eldest son wound, right? We talk about women all the time and girls and the healing and the pressure and the this and the that, and we provide so much support for the women. And although that is, yes, very much so my community, I thought it was very important to take a moment to just look at this very, very important issue, and that's the eldest son wound. Because the oldest boys in many families often are praised for being strong, right? The responsible, mature, dependable one, and the one who handles everything. He may be seen as the protector, the helper, the person who's the example or the future, the one that's going to make it big and help everybody and save the family, right? But what often goes unseen is the cost, because many eldest sons, they weren't they weren't just loved, they were leaned on. They were expected to be strong before they were safe, responsible before they were ready, and mature before they were nurtured. And many grown men are still carrying burdens that were placed on them when they were just boys. So today we're gonna, just unpack what the eldest son wound is, how it forms, and how it shows up in adulthood, and what healing can actually look like. So let's take a breath, get grounded, and let's jump into it. Let's look at what the eldest son wound is, right? The eldest son wound is the emotional pain and survival patterns that develop when the oldest boy in a family is forced into roles he should have never had to carry. He may have become the protector, the second parent, emotional support system. He may have been the example for his siblings, the future financial hope, or the man of the house, even while still being a child himself. And this can happen in homes with trauma, addiction, divorce, financial stress, absent fathers, emotionally overwhelmed mothers, or simply family systems where children were assigned roles instead of allowed to be children. Many eldest sons learned that they should not cry. They need to be strong, that they can handle it, and the family needs them. They were told that they're the oldest, that they should know better, and they should set the example. And over time, the nervous system begins to believe that my worth is in what I do. My love must be earned, and my emotions are inconvenient. People need me, but may not truly know me. Mm, that was, that's deep right there. And we think about it, when a child receives those messages early enough, they don't just become beliefs, they become identity. So let's talk about how this wound is formed. How this wound is formed is, for many eldest sons, it begins with responsibility that arrived too early. Maybe the dad was absent physically or emotionally. Maybe the mom was overwhelmed and unconsciously leaned on him. Maybe there was chaos in the home and he became hyper aware of everyone's moods. Maybe he was told to watch his siblings, protect the house, maybe help pay bills later or succeed for the family, or never mess up because younger siblings were watching him. Sometimes the wound forms very quietly. There's no screaming, no obvious abuse, just a child who consistently is carrying more than he should. And children normalize what hurts, right? Children normalize what hurts them when it's all they know. So many elder sons don't realize they were wounded because they were praised for surviving. They were called mature, but maturity developed through pressure, and that is not the same as safety. Let me say that again. Maturity develops through pressure, and it is not the same as safety. I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, What responsibilities did I carry too young? When did I stop feeling like a child? And was I loved or was I mainly just relied upon? And I want you to think for a second because what starts in childhood doesn't stay in childhood unless you work through it, right? Which most times people don't. So it often follows men directly into adulthood. And let's talk about how, right? Let's talk about how it shows up in adult men. Because many eldest sons grow into highly capable adults, right? They handle business, solve problems, and show up for everybody. Underneath that competence, there may be exhaustion. And some signs is that he struggles to ask for help. He feels guilty when he rests, and he ties his worth to his income, his success, or productivity. And he shuts down emotionally when he's overwhelmed. Anger comes easier than sadness. He feels responsible for everyone and he becomes the fixer in relationships. He begins to provide but struggles to be emotionally present. He appears strong but secretly he feels alone. And one of the deepest pains many elder sons carry is this: people appreciate what I do, but do they actually know me? Mm. And this often shows up strongest in love because we repeat what we learn until we heal it. Many eldest sons learn that love equals duty. So in relationships, they may become the provider and the rescuer, right? The silent sufferer, the one who handles everything. But emotional intimacy may feel foreign to them. And they receive, and that receiving care feels uncomfortable, right? Being vulnerable may feel dangerous. And some choose partners who need saving because being needed feels familiar to them. And some of these men, they just avoid closeness completely because closeness once meant pressure. And many they don't know how to say I'm tired or I need support too. They don't know how to say I'm hurting and I don't want to carry this alone. Instead, they keep performing strength. But performance is not connection. So I want to take a moment to provide some reflective questions. If this is resonating so far, take a moment and ask yourself, do I confuse love with responsibility? Do I only feel valuable when needed? Can I receive support without guilt? And who am I when I'm not fixing something? Take a moment to write those down. I'll leave them in the show notes. It's very important to do this reflective work, right? This introspection. Um, Very, very important to just go within to ask ourselves about the beliefs that we hold, the identities that we are creating or have created, right, based off of childhood trauma and the normalcies, right, things that we have adapted that we deemed as normal. But when we get outside of those spaces and into the real world and grow up, we realize things weren't so normal. So take a moment to reflect on that. Because now, beneath all of this strength that these men grow up to hold, is often grief. So let's go into that because the hidden grief that many eldest sons are carrying, they are grieving things they never named. The childhood that they missed, right? The softness that they were denied, the father they needed, the safety that they never had, the pressure of being the strong one, right? The loneliness of carrying everything silently. And sometimes that grief turns into anger, it turns into numbness or overworking. Sometimes it turns into addiction or even emotional distance. And sometimes it can become depression, hidden behind, I'm good. But grief does not disappear because it was ignored. It waits until someone feels safe enough to tell the truth. And telling the truth is where healing begins. So let's talk about healing, because how do we heal the eldest son wound? Because this is very important. Each one reach one, each one teach one. Healing starts when a man realizes that I was strong because I had to be. Now I want to be whole because I choose to be. And healing starts to look like learning that your worth is not performance. That feeling emotions is okay to do that without shame. And asking for help is okay. That it's important to set boundaries, especially with family. And it's okay to no longer be the automatic rescuer. You don't have to always be on call. You are not 911 dispatch, okay? It's okay to rest without feeling guilty. And it's very important to reclaim your play, joy, creativity, and happiness. It's time to start, if you haven't already, to build brotherhood and safe community. And begin to redefine masculinity as strength and softness, because it's about having that balance of the divine feminine and masculine energies, the strength and the softness, allowing yourself to be supported, because healing is not becoming weak. Healing is finally putting down what was never yours. And as always, I like to come with affirmations, because as we do this work, it's just important to affirm ourselves. So I will also share these in the notes. And as always, these are the ones I have. Feel free to create your own. Write these down if you feel if they resonate. I will leave these in the show notes so that you can write them down later if you don't catch them as I speak them. The first is, I am worthy beyond what I provide. I do not have to carry everyone. My emotions are human, not weakness. I release roles that were never mine. Rest is safe for me. I deserve support too. I can be strong and soft at the same time. I am becoming the man I needed. Those are the affirmations I have. Feel free to create your own. Feel free to write down what resonates. Take what resonates, leave what does not. And if no one has ever told you this next part, I want you to hear it now. I want you to know that you were a child, even if people treated you like an adult, even if they called you mature, even if you handled everything better than the grown-ups, because sometimes we know that's a thing, right? Even if you became dependable early, you were still a child, and some part of you may still be wanting and waiting for permission to rest, to feel, to be held, to know, and to not lead, to not carry it all. And that permission exists now. You do not have to keep providing and proving that your value through suffering. You do not have to keep proving it, that your value comes through your suffering. You do not have to keep proving your value through suffering. Stop suffering. That suffering stops now. It's a choice moving forward to lay it down. I like to share some additional reflective questions as we get ready to close out. As always, take what resonates, leave what does not. Feel free to create your own reflective questions, because when they come up within you, they're specifically for your journey, and that's beautiful. But here are the ones I have. I will also leave these in the show notes. Where am I still carrying roles that expired years ago? Where am I still carrying roles that expired years ago? What would change if I believed I mattered beyond responsibility? What would change if I believed I mattered beyond responsibility? What emotions have I been calling strength by suppressing? What emotions have I been calling strength by suppressing? What kind of man do I want to become now that survival is no longer my only option? What kind of man do I want to become now that survival is no longer my only option? Those are the reflective questions I have. Again, feel free to create your own. And if this episode spoke to you, send it to a man who has always been the strong one. The eldest son wound is real, y'all, but so is healing. So is softness, and so is emotional freedom. So is a life where you are loved for who you are, not just what you carry. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for choosing yourself and choosing this healing. Keep healing, keep feeling, keep becoming, and remember, until next time, you ain't gotta lie to thrive. Peace.